Welcome to Generation Digital Workforce, the podcast that's here to explore the role of robotic process automation and other digital technologies. Whether you're just getting started or you're looking for advanced strategies and tactics, if you're curious about where human and digital workers are coming together to transform the future of work, then this podcast is for you. All right, let's get into the show.
Welcome to the podcast, everyone. I'm your host, Michael Marchuk, and today we have a guest I've known for several years who's been doing some really impactful work with his clients. Pawan Jadhav from Lateetud is going to be talking with us about some of the ways he's helping banks service their clients in the United States as they manage the Small Business Administration's Paycheck Protection Program loans that have been a lifeline for so many businesses affected by the COVID-19 economic slowdown. Welcome, Pawan.
Thank you, Michael. It's my pleasure to be here.
I'm glad you're able to join us. So before we get into this whole Paycheck Protection Program automation thing that you've been working on, tell us a little bit more about Lateetud.
Absolutely. So Lateetud as a company is focused on intelligent process automation. So when we talk to customers, we understand what their problems are and create end-to-end solutions using technologies in the intelligent automation domain. And that includes robotic process automation, business process management, data extraction, and artificial intelligence and machine learning. So that's our focus area, and that's what the company does. We have been in this space for close to 4+ years. We have won several awards for the work that we have done. In the recent times, we won the COVID-19 Innovation Award for some leading solutions that we launched, and one of the solutions we are going to talk about today. We are also ranked number 155 in the Inc. 500 list of the fastest growing companies in the USA. So that's a little bit about Lateetud, Michael.
Very impressive. So how did you and your team get exposed to the issues surrounding these Paycheck Protection Program loans that banks were providing to their customers?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. We went through this exercise, all of us together, banks included and borrowers included, at the beginning of the end of actually the first quarter and the beginning of second quarter of 2020. And so the way it came about was we have been working with banks, in fact, banking and financial services is one of the major verticals that we focus on apart from insurance. And our customers, when this program was launched and when the government announced this program, in discussion with our customers, we realized that every single one of them was very anxious about that program. And the primary reason was, first of all, there did not exist a process, because this was a very specific process for a specific time period in time. So there was no solution that existed out there. That's just a minor problem. The other major problem was the volume that everyone had to deal with. So now we are talking about thousands of loans being processed in a matter of days. Just to give you a context to the size of the problems that the banks were dealing with. One of the major SBA lenders that we work with, they process close to 2,500 loans on an annual basis. But in this time around, they had to process 15,000 loans in matter of 6 weeks. So you can imagine that they had to accomplish that with their existing team, and there was no solution that existed. So that presented us the challenge. And when we looked at the challenge, we said, what can we do here? How can we help our customers and how can we help our borrowers, ultimately helping the economy save the jobs? Is we said, let's use intelligent automation, because this is the area that can support and we can be agile with these technologies. So these are low code, no code kind of technologies that can be deployed in matter of days and weeks rather than months and years. So that was our introduction to this whole ecosystem and our thought process of how we can create a solution and help our customers and the economy.
Well, with that increase in volume, obviously they needed some kind of help to be able to do that. So how does this solution that you develop actually work within the banks that are using it?
Yeah, so if you look at this process end to end, that is the SBA PPP loan origination, where you are actually originating the loans and helping the borrowers. It starts with information coming in, and this information could come in via the borrower portal. So this is the portal that you have made available to your borrowers, where they are logging in, submitting the application, and also submitting these supporting documents. And once that information comes in, you have to validate that information. That is, the bank has to validate that information, apply the rules so that they can prove the eligibility and also validate the amount, the loan amount. Once that is done, you have to run your KYC and background checks. So these are not your existing customers, and in many cases, these were not, because they were they were trying to help a lot of borrowers in the community and outside the community. So you have to run the KYC and background checks and do a little bit of underwriting so that you are accountable for the loans that you're processing. Once those background checks are performed, they have to then go and get the authorization ID and ultimately fund the loans, right? They have to send the closing documents and fund the loans. So what we have done with our solution is we looked at these 4 or 5 major steps, and we realized that a lot of these activities were being done manually. So via emails, via shared folders, via text messages, via phone calls, and so on and so forth. And there was no visibility end to end to make sure that you have complete view of what is happening at any given point in time. So we created a system which brings everything in one orchestrated layer, right from the borrower portal up to closing the loans by getting the closing documents signed. All of that is part of one single applications. All the background checks, all the validations, all the getting things approved, the digital workers provided by Blue Prisms are performing the job in the back end, which is invisible to the banks, by the way. They are just seeing the results of the automation that is happening. And the orchestration layer is doing everything else. And that's the automation. And this is a completely turnkey automation. So the only thing the customer has to do is give us the go ahead, and we, right from getting the subdomain, even linking it to their website, to closing, is something that is completely handled by the application, where they just provide their reviewers and approvers to make sure that they're working the application, the loan applications, and approving them and getting them funded ultimately. So that's the end-to-end solution. Right?
So I imagine, each bank is slightly different than another bank. Did you run into any issues as you were looking at this from a solution perspective, going from one bank who's doing it one way to another bank who may have done it slightly differently?
Yes, so that's a good question. So the variation that we found was primarily in the background checks and KYC checks that the banks were doing. The variation we also found was once the loan is approved and it is funded, the loan data has to go into their core systems, right? So those core systems are different for different banks, right? So those were the 2 major areas that we found. The other that we can add is the closing document. The formats of the closing document could be different. So the way we addressed this was we have created a KYC background package where the customers can decide to do that through the platform, or they can do that on their own, or even choose what KYC and background checks they want to perform and skip. Right, so that's one flexibility that we have given so that we can tackle this variation from bank to bank. The second part that I mentioned was the closing documents. The closing document templates could be provided by the customer or the bank, and the data is already there within the system. So we can populate those templates and generate those templates based on the standards and mechanism that the bank follows. The third portion, which is where we are taking the data and putting into their core systems, there are 2 methods of doing it. And this is where, again, Blue Prism comes in one of the methods, is we can automate even that piece where we can take the data and actually put it into their core systems without any human intervention. But it has to be custom work because we don't know what core systems the bank is using. We have worked with several of them. But it takes anywhere from 3 business days to 5 business days to create that automation based on our experience for the last cycle. So that's one method. The second method is we can give an extract from the system so that the banks themselves can apply that data to their code. That's pretty much what we have to do to handle the customization.
Gotcha. And for that extract, it sounds like there's a lot of options you've given them, from whether they want to do specific checks to how they want to implement the back end out there. What kind of customizations did you have to go through to be able to do that? You mentioned there's 3 or 5 business days to work with their individual systems, but it sounds like you've created this to be sort of extensible in a way that it leverages Blue Prism to do a lot of the work, but the changes you have to make are minimal. Is that how I'm hearing it?
Yes, the changes that you have to make are minimal, and primarily because of the nature of the problem itself. So the process that we are automating doesn't exist today, right? Because it's a specific problem that we are dealing with. We are talking about SBA PPP loan origination, which is not an existing process within any of the banks. This was created to handle the current scenario, and and that's the reason why there's the customization that we have to do for any of the banks is very limited, right? So they can just take this, and there's a lot of standardization across how the process is run for the SBA PPP process specifically. So the customization that we have to do for banks is very minimal. The customization exists primarily in how they are onboarding the loans, ultimately the funded loans to their core systems, and the other two areas that I talked about. So they're very, very limited customization. So this is the reason why we have created this completely hosted on the cloud and charged as per loan process. So it's a completely turnkey solution from that perspective.
That makes sense. But you mentioned, having the differences between banking systems as one aspect, and the fact that you've built this with the Blue Prism to be able to do this more quickly. But there was also changes you had to do on the SBA side after their website crashed to start with. Can you talk with us a little about that?
Yeah, that was an interesting scenario. By the way, we did not bring their website down, but yeah, so when we started using robotic process automation to log into the SBA website and go through the E-Tran process and authorization ID, we were processing applications within under 2 minutes, right? The speed at which we were doing this. And I believe there were several banks who ended up doing this ultimately, and that put pressure on the servers, and there were several instances where the website had to be brought down. So SBA came with the guidance that the banks cannot use software robots anymore, right? So that was kind of a surprise and a shock to us. And when we heard that, we took a step back, but we quickly pivoted, and within 24 hours we had a solution that was compliant with SBA, and that was the XML-based solution. And in certain cases, we also used APIs to ultimately submit this and go through the process. And in both the cases, we ended up using automation, and in both the cases, the speed at which we did this was far, far better than what you would have done manually.
That's awesome. I mean, that's one way of approaching it, because you had a flexible platform to do both the front and the back end of this. You were able to quickly pivot when you needed to be able to support the new requirements without having to affect the banks who are waiting for these loans to get processed then.
Yeah, no, that's a wonderful point, right? Because when we are talking about these changes, and if these changes are coming as frequently as they came the last time around, you want to work with a technology that can support these changes. So you should be able to do that quickly and deploy that quickly. And this is where Blue Prism shines very well, because we are able to do these things and do them on the fly. And the second is, you also want to work with a team like Lateetud that is flexible to work with you and get these things done. So it worked in our favor.
So not all banks have started using software robots to automate these processes. In fact, there's probably quite a few that haven't done this at all. They just used a lot of people to support this. How would you suggest that they start looking into this, or to automate this loan processing for the next round of these Paycheck Protection Program loans?
So the way I answer this is with a question, and I'll answer this again, is do we want to do this all over again? Right? We went through this the last time around. Do we really want to go through this all over again, and that too manually? And if I ask that question to a bank, they will say, of course they will, because we are warriors. Right? We want to help the economy, we want to help our customers, and we want to help our borrowers. And you want to do this because this is how you help. This is how you rise up to the occasion. But let me ask another question: is there a better way to do it? Of course, and that's where I indicate to customers and banks is that definitely we want to help. Even we want to help. but there's a better way to do what we did the last time, and that is through automation. And there are many reasons why you want to automate and why you should automate as a bank. Is that your employees are tired? They went through this, right? It's a no-brainer that they need that respite, and automation will come to rescue. The second reason is that bank also has regular business, so they have the regular loans that they have to fund. The last time around, this business was non-existent because of the state of the economy, but it is coming back up, and you want your employees to be focused on that. The third is the process, as I explained earlier, is fairly manual. The 5 stages that I talked about, which is receiving, validating, performing KYC background checks, and going through the closing and funding process, is fairly manual. It is fairly structured. It is very rules based, and it has all the characteristics that lend themselves to for automation. So you should automate. If you see a process like this, whether it's SBA, PPP, or any other process, I think you should automate a process like this. The fourth reason why I say you should go for automation is because it's a proven technology. It is not something that is being done for the first time. It has been there for now several years. And specifically for the last time around, we actually processed thousands of these loans, loan applications, and processed billions of dollars in loans. And it worked. It worked wonderfully well. The banks that we worked with wouldn't have been able to do the kind of volume that they did without this automation, and this technology is proven. The fifth reason I would say is that this is the time to make big impact. So we are working with several local community-based banks, and they want to make a bigger impact in the community that they are. And many of these banks want to go national. They want to grow the impact and the geography that they're having. So this is the time, and this is the golden opportunity for you to make that bigger impact. And this can be done with the same people or even lesser people with automation. And these are the various reasons why one should do it. And it is easier than once you sign up with us. It takes 3 to 5 business days for us to go live without much input from the banks.
And obviously, as you mentioned, if a bank is looking to grow, and which bank isn't, um, this is just one part of it, right? Processing loans is only one of the activities that they do within their bank. So I imagine there's quite a few other options they could be looking at after this as an opportunity to automate further, allowing them to grow more rapidly and more effectively without necessarily having to add a whole lot of people to do that.
No, that's a great question. So the technology that we are using, and specifically Blue Prism, Blue Prism is as a platform, and the purchase that they end up doing of the Blue Prism robots. This is a reusable technology, so it is not tied to a process. You can automate many processes after this. For instance, we have created a loan forgiveness process. So you have originated these loans. Now you have to forgive these loans as well. So there is an end-to-end process that they can look into for loan forgiveness, which is built on very similar principles. Then, if you look at the typical loan processing engine that banks have created, which is originating the loans and then servicing the loans, and even reaching out to the customers and selling more products and services, in all these areas, you can look at all the manual steps that are happening. So you don't have to rip and replace any existing technology. You may continue to work with your loan origination system. You may continue to work with your loan servicing systems, but the software robots can come in and help automate all the manual functions that happen in between. In almost all the cases, what I have seen is that these systems, the loan origination systems and the loan servicing systems, are primarily acting as repositories of data. So what that means is that people are putting the data in, but anything that has to be worked on the loans or anything that has to be worked on approving these loans is happening outside these systems, whether you're going to external websites collecting some certifications, or you're trying to collect credit data, or you're trying to collect some KYC and background data. All of that is happening outside these systems and is fairly manual. So there's a huge potential to automate many of these functions. Uh, Almost 40 to 50% of underwriting function is manual. And that's the potential that we are talking about. And these are very high cost uh, uh, effort that goes into underwriting any of the loans. So if you're able to automate any of these functions, the gain is tremendous.
That's an important point that you've made. You don't need to change the systems you're already using to be able to securely automate this process.
But so we have been working with banks now for the last 4+ years, and what we have seen is that, and we have worked with systems which are almost 30-40 year olds. We are talking about the green screens and the mainframe systems, and even the new age systems. Customers are, for several reasons, happy with what they have, and they do not want to replace them. What they're not happy with is the manual work that happens in between. So Blue Prism is able to work with any of these technologies, whether it's old or new, and able to fix those gaps rather than that's the reason why you're able to deploy these technologies very fast. So you're not talking about transformation efforts ranging from 18 months to 36 months. A simple to medium automation can be launched within 45 to 60 days. That's the speed that we're talking about here.
That's pretty impressive. So Pawan, what's the biggest takeaway that you have for folks that are listening to now about these SBA PPP loans and about bank automation in general?
The biggest takeaway is if banks can take away something from this discussion, is that the banks were heroes the last time around. They were the ones who saved the economy and saved thousands of jobs. They will continue to do this as they go forward. Now there is a potential for them to have bigger impact and continue to provide that benefit to the economy. And to do that, I urge them to look at automation, use automation, give that freedom to their employees so that they can focus more on customer relationships and driving more business for them. Whereas the rest of the manual works, let the digital workers come in and do that for them, and our solution will help them do that. So if that's something that they understand, if they're able to understand that well, then reach out to us, talk to us. We should be able to go live with you in 3 to 5 business days.
That's great. Well, Pawan, it was great talking with you about this. You provided a whole lot of background on this whole process with the SBA PPP loans, but also just in general, how you've really been able to help streamline this to keep banks being able to help their customers, like you said, be part of the economy and stay alive. So this has been really helpful as you've described it. So I really appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you, Michael. It was my pleasure, and thank you for having me on this podcast.
You've been listening to Generation Digital Workforce. If you want to hear more about RPA, AI, and other cognitive technologies that are shaping the future of work, join us next time as we continue to go deeper on these topics with industry innovators and experts. To make sure you never miss a future episode, subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast player. And if you've liked what you heard today, please leave us a review. It's one of the best ways to help more people find valuable content. For show notes and more info, visit us at blueprism.com/podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.